Okay, well, thank you all for officially joining us today. My name is Akwesasne Bryant. I'm the director of the Native American Educational and Cultural Center at Purdue University. We're excited to have a special guest with us, Margaret Jacobs, who will be joining us as part of our Native American Heritage Month events. And as we get started, just also want to do a formal acknowledgement with where we are at Purdue University. We are on the homeland of the Potawatomi, the Shawnee, the Lenape, as well as the Miami tribal nations, and we also acknowledge additional tribal nations that were living in Indiana. However, due to forced relocation or in some cases outright extinction, they may not be. Their footprints may no longer be felt upon the state of Indiana. So, with that, we still want to acknowledge and send our profound gratitude for their continued being land stewards of the land and taking care of it and preparing it for the next generation. And so to begin with, we are going to start with a presentation from Margaret. We're going to be featuring some slides here, and then we'll move into the fun part of sharing some of the different the artwork that she has. Hopefully you were able to pick them up again. And I just realized I left my ink, so I'm going to have to sneak out while you're doing a presentation. My ink, I left it out in the car. Okay, so great. So my formal introduction. Margaret Jacobs was born and raised in Northern New York and is an enrolled member of the Akwesasne. Am I saying that right? Mohawk?
Akwesasne.
Okay, Akwesasne, thank you for that correction. She is known for her sculptures, jewelry, and drawings, and uses all three approaches to explore the tension and harmony between nature and man-made, often intermingling, unexpected, and contradicting materials to explore those relationships. Margaret is the featured artist for the Eiteljorg Museum's Artist in Residence program for the month of November. And is this your first time serving in this role?
Yeah, I've been there for their Indian market as one of the artists who set up. But this is the first time that I've done an artist in residence with them.
Okay, well, great. We hope this is the first of many future presentations. And I also forgot to, and I would like to also acknowledge and thank the Eiteljorg Museum for allowing us to partner with them in this particular workshop. We have been very thankful that they've allowed us to bring artists to campus and to host some presentations, and we're able to share their many talented artistic skills. So this is the first time we're going to be featuring Margaret. So with that, I'm going to stop talking and turn it over officially to Margaret.
Yeah, so so thanks for having me here. I'm really excited to show my artwork and then do some slides. And yeah, I've been in residence at the Eiteljorg. Last week I was in person, and this week I am virtual. So you guys are my last virtual event of my teaching residency.
Mm-hmm. Well, good. I hope you've had fun during your residency.
Yeah, it's been a lot of fun. I've met with a lot of different school groups. So it's always interesting because everybody kind of connects with something a little bit different. So it's just always interesting to hear feedback and what people are connecting to and what they're taking to their own work. So it's been great to work with a variety of different people.
Okay, excellent. Well, I am ready to move forward with this presentation. Just let me know when to start advancing the slides.
Sounds good.
Can you see them now?
No.
Oh gosh,
wait,
okay.
No.
Let me go back again. Share screen. Okay, now can you see them?
Yeah, yep.
Okay, excellent.
So I'm a metalsmith primarily. I create steel sculpture, and then I also make jewelry out of powder coated brass, and then silver and natural materials. And I do a lot of drawings as well. So I like to work in the three different media. I think it just gives me different ways to explore the same theme and the same ideas that I'm thinking about. Just slightly different ways to kind of express those ideas. Next slide. So this piece, this was one of my earlier pieces of metalwork. And it was a really pivotal piece for me on my metalworking journey. I feel like it really solidified certain welding knowledge that I had and really just helped me advance my career forward. So in my work, I'm using a lot of different tools, a lot of different processes. I'm welding, I'm grinding, I am cold forming, I'm hot forming, I'm using a propane forge, so I'm heating stuff up, moving it around a lot. And I tend to jump back and forth just with all the different processes. And then I like,
There we go.
oh yeah, I like to have a certain amount of abstraction in my work as well. So this one, you know, I'm Turtle Clan. I definitely wanted it to seem like a turtle, but I also wanted there to be a certain level of abstraction to the work. Next slide. So this piece is a fabricated steel hat that I did. Originally, I thought it'd be a part of a series, but right now it's just kind of a one-of-a-kind piece. I'm not really sure if it'll move forward from that. So generally how I make my work is I create patterns out of steel and then I cut everything out and then I form it and then weld it together and then grind it. So I like the work to look like it as if it could have been cast, but it's not, it's all fabricated. This is an installation shot from my exhibition at the Boise Art Museum in Idaho. So the title of the exhibition was Steel Medicine. That was actually the title of a piece that I made, but just they really liked the title and wanted to go with that for the exhibition. So that's what we did. Next slide. So this larger installation piece is based off of tobacco flowers and tobacco leaves. I am integrating the chain in there. I'd like to use chain and found objects in my work. And I'm really thinking of it as lines. So just drawing with object, drawing with the sculpture, drawing with the steel, and creating different shadows as well. So it all plays into the final piece. So this piece is a more recent piece than the other one, but still thinking about the tobacco leaves and then integrating them with, there's a found circle of steel in the back. So again, just putting everything together so it feels like it could all be one object. It could have all been cast from one mold, but fabricating everything. This is an installation shot of my old growth series. So I will get into this a little bit more in a little bit. So this is a piece that is titled Steel Medicine. So this piece was made specifically for an exhibition in Portland, Oregon. And I think is the Elizabeth Jones Art Center, and they were having an exhibition right after Standing Rock. They really wanted to kind of keep the momentum up. So they invited me to create a piece for the exhibition. Next slide. So these are part of my old growth series. And what I'm doing with this series is I'm creating culturally, familiarly, and just relevant medicine plants to me and natural objects, and then integrating them with the ironworkers tools. So just, you know, choosing plants and choosing objects that have a story to me, so that they're culturally relevant, but they also have a strong family story with them or family narrative that I'm thinking about. So these two are chives and antler. So these two are antler and cattail. Cattail is a really important image that I've been exploring in my work recently. My grandmother's house was on a swamp, so I always remember seeing the cattails growing up. They were just always really present in my childhood. It's just one of the memories that I have. So that's a form that I've been exploring a lot recently. And then these two are ash and cedar. So my community are basket makers, weavers. I'm not a basket maker, but we're having the issue with the emerald ash borer on the East Coast, and just wanted to really, wanted to create a piece thinking about that, and just what's happening to our ash trees. So these are tobacco 1 and tobacco 2. And this one is strawberry. And then this one is plantain. This is another form that I've really been exploring a lot recently in my work. And it's a really interesting plant. It's just a weed that grows everywhere, but is used culturally, medicinally. It's just something that I always remember my dad using from my childhood, but I never actually knew the name for it. And so after I made this one, I really wanted to dig in more and learn more about it. And then figure out like what his actual name was. Because it's something that was always present in my childhood. My dad always ended up, always used for cuts and bruises, scrapes, but just try to dig in deeper. So this is another form that I've been exploring in my work recently as well. This is an exhibition. So I was a visiting artist at Franconia Sculpture Park in Minnesota. I was there for 10 days. And so I showed up and I worked for 10 days and created the work for this exhibition. So everything here, except for the 5 pieces on the very back wall, were all created on site at the sculpture park. So just exploring the cattail forms more, exploring the plantain forms more. So then these are 2 close-up images of the cattail pieces. This is a smaller piece. I found the circular metal piece of cast iron at the park and then fabricated the plantain and welded it together. And then with this one, I also found it's like the cast iron ladder. I think it's barn. It's some kind of like farming implement or hardware. And then fabricated the plantain piece and welded it together. So here's another plantain piece that they used, and then I integrated the found. It's like a nail, but it's about 7 inches long. Next slide. Okay, so these pieces, I don't have the installation shot in these slides, but these pieces were made for my Spalbody gallery show. So basically, the gallery sat on top of a coffee table. So artists who create work for the show have to make it really tiny and really miniature. So I made these 3 pieces. So the previous plantain and then the blackberry and the blueberry, and just playing around with scale. You have to make pieces that are like 3 to 4 inches, but still have a really large presence. So that was just a lot of fun for me. Still exploring plants that I have been in my work, but just changing the scale around, just giving myself a different challenge as an artist. This is a collaborative piece that I did with Geo Neptune, who is Passamaquoddy. So Geo is a master basket weaver, and we really wanted to make a piece together, just talk about the emerald ash borer. So we decided to create this collaborative piece. Next slide. So I did all of the metal work. This is all steel, hand cut everything and welded it together, powder coated all of the top part and then the flowers. So they had different layers of color. Next slide. And then you can also see like the bottom part of the basket. I think they're called standers. I'm not 100% sure. But so this part is all steel. So I took that, I fabricated that, powder coated, gave the different colors and layering. It's pretty glittery as well. There's like a really nice like glitter coat to it. Next slide. And then gave that to Geo, and then Geo took that and then wove in the ash and the sweetgrass to finish the basket. So I also create jewelry. I make powder coated jewelry, and then I make, I usually sometimes I'll combine it, but it's usually powder coated. And then if I'm combining metal with natural materials, I'm generally using silver. Next slide. So these pieces, I hand cut all of the sage and then soldered them together, powder coated them. The piece on the right, I really like because it looks like it could be leather. So I also like playing around with just, you know, it's metal, but it could be leather, could be different materials. It could be a natural material, even though it's metal. Next slide. This is another piece in that series. So the blue's a little hard to see, but it has like a nice little hammer texture too. So just different colors, color layers and texture layers. So for the project for you guys, I made walnut ink. So it's really simple. You basically just need black walnuts. And then next slide. Okay, so I'll show you my work and then I'll tell you how to make it. So I do a lot of drawings as well. And I usually do drawings after the fact if I'm thinking about forms. And I use the walnut ink a lot. It's really great. It has a really nice color texture to it, and you can do a lot of, a lot of different things to it. And you can go out and gather nuts and make it, and it's free, which is awesome. Next slide. So here's just another drawing that I did with the walnut ink. Yep, so these are black walnuts. I'm pretty sure you guys have them in your area, right? Okay. Yeah,
Yes.
so there's this, yeah, I think, yeah, it's really funny. I just moved back to New York and I was in New Hampshire. They were really hard to find in New Hampshire. And then when we moved back to New York, they're everywhere here. I'm like, okay, it's not just an East Coast thing. I don't know if it's like a regional thing. Yep, so these are black walnuts. So the ones on the right are the ones that have fallen. So it has like the really dark husk and the tannins. Next slide.
And just to add on, we have a huge oak tree or a big tree outside our backyard. So we have these all over the back of our center. And, we have squirrels that have just been collecting these left and right. So when we saw this, I thought this is exactly what we see, because you'll be sitting out there talking and all of a sudden you just hear, in the early fall, you would hear them just falling and hitting on the ground. So we had one hit one of our students one time. He was okay, just kind of hit him on his shoulder and rolled.
Yeah, so this was last week when I was at the Eiteljorg. I made them pretty quickly. So generally when I make them, I'll heat up the water and let it set for a really long time. So the longer you let it sit, the darker it'll go. But we just pretty much put enough water to cover them, boiled everything, and then let it sit overnight. Next slide. Do I have a next slide? Is that the last one? That might be the last one. Okay, so that's the last one. Yeah, so I made a bunch of walnut ink. I think you guys asked for a drawing demo, and like I said, it's just, it's a material that's really accessible. It's really easy to make. And then you can combine it with a lot of different things as well. So I think I can, so I'll show you my setup. And I think I can just do this. Yeah, so this is my drawing setup. So I just have, some thicker paper. I like to use all different kinds of paper. I actually have watercolor paper, which is a little rare for me. And then I have, my water dish. I have the charcoal, the walnut ink, and then a bunch of different drawing utensils. Like I said, I'll use everything, so I'll just combine everything with it. And then can you remind me, were we doing like a shape exercise as well, or was it just drawing? I don't remember exactly.
We are open to whatever you like. They each have at least 4 or 5 of the sheets of paper. We have the ink that we gave out, charcoal, charcoal stick, and they should have a pencil possibly and a paintbrush for the walnut.
Okay. Cool. I couldn't remember if we were doing like a cutout and a combining, but I don't think we were. Okay. Yeah, so I was gonna try and do a demo, but honestly, I just like, I just like to play around with it. And then I really like combining it with charcoal or different kinds of pencils so that you can get like nice highlights. If you have something that's colorful. And I'll just like dip everything as well. And then, if you combine it with the water, it'll go a little lighter. And I have loose charcoal, but yeah, you guys have like charcoal sticks. So then you can kind of just darken it. So yeah, so I like to draw wet. I have a lot of, I have a lot of fun that way. So yeah, so that's what I have. Are there any questions about anything?
If you'd like to offer any type of questions, just go ahead and unmute yourself and share. One of the questions I had in regards to I was intrigued by the black walnut and ink that you produced. And is that something that's unique to your particular tribal nation, or could you maybe provide a little bit more insight into that?
Yeah, it's not. I had an artist friend who showed me how to make it, and it's just something that I've taken to and that I really like because it's a natural material. It's abundant. It's easy to make. It's not, it's non-toxic. So I don't think it has a specific, or if it does, I'm not aware of it. But I've just taken to it because, it is this really like great natural material that you can use. And there, there's a lot of it.
And one of the items we got a big jar from Sandy from the Eiteljorg. So we were able to put them in small little sauce cups, and our graduate, our GA Buster, said it reminded him of soy sauce.
Yeah.
That same type of container. And then with that, are there other type of natural products that you use that you can turn into paint, like other types of vegetation or plants or trees?
I've tried a couple different things and I haven't found anything that comes out as nicely as the walnut ink yet. I tried a couple different like berries and things like that at one point, but nothing was deep enough. So I kind of just stopped. But it is something that I have thought about. I was like, I'd really like to figure out what else can be used. But for right now, I haven't found something that's similar to that.
Okay, yeah, I was just curious I like the fact that you're using natural products to create different type of, for your artwork. And that kind of ties to, I'm from the Navajo Nation, and we do a lot of our relatives and people back on the res, they work with weaving, and they do a lot of natural weaving. And so with that, they produce, they go out and they harvest the plants and they bring it in. They use it to make different colors of yarn so that they could make it different natural colors. And so that was just, I was curious regarding that, if there was anything that was unique to your particular tribe. And that's what first came to mind when I saw the black ink, and then I seen how that might be something that somebody may try to use to dye wool for weaving, or to do some other type of like strips of strips of bark to make for basketry as well. So I'm not sure if, because you worked with Geo, and Geo has been a phenomenal artist. We've met at the Eiteljorg Museum several times in market. So and I always like his vibrant the rich colors that they use. So hopefully that's maybe a way that they were able to incorporate some of the natural products into the weaving material that they do.
Yeah, I know that there is like, I know that with the ash, there is in the sweetgrass, there are some like darker natural ones, but I'm just not sure about that process.
Okay. We put on the list also if they have a hole puncher, because that was one thing, scissors, hole puncher, and fasteners, and we made those optional just because we weren't sure if everybody had a hole puncher. But you've made some sculptures, is that what it is?
Oh yeah, so that's why I was asking. So I can show you what I did with the other groups. So I thought that this is something that and I know a couple sculptors who will just like, they'll draw and then they'll cut apart parts of their drawings and they'll attach them together. So I think that's why I had put that on the list. So what I did with the other classes is we had a bunch of felt. So we cut out a bunch of felt patterns. So like this was one that I did. And then hole punch them, and then we could attach them with the paper fasteners. And then, you know, you can just attach them in any way and you can start to create our object and form from something flat. But I do know people, I do know artists too, who like use the paper as their base and then they'll cut it out and then they'll start to create form. And that's something that I'm doing with my metal work, but I'm just doing out of steel, I'm not doing out of paper. But it is something that I thought would be interesting if people were interested in doing that.
And along those same lines, when you're creating your sculpture pieces and you're going through the process of designing it, is that something you do too, is to create it first on paper and then use different, you know, like the hole puncher or paper fasteners in order to put it together? Or I was, you know, when Sandy mentioned it, I was just curious how you're able to use that with your own particular art pieces.
Sometimes I'll do paper patterns. So sometimes if I'm trying to do a complex form, like the hat I cut out like multiple pieces to kind of get the like the top rounded part. So sometimes I'll do like a paper pattern first, and just rough the shape out. And I think for me, most of the time it's just drawing to figure out the curve that I'm going for, if that makes sense. So the way that I'll cut the steel out is I have a plasma cutter. So I can just I'll like make myself a rough drawing, and then I'll still kind of freehand things and cut the steel out with my plasma cutter. But I'm usually doing some kind of like drawing either right on the steel or with paper before to give me a rough idea of how to put it together. A lot of the times the more finished drawings I'm making after I make the sculpture piece. And I think it's just a way for me to kind of like, I don't want to say like finalize the piece, or really like finish thinking about the form. Because it feels kind of like, okay, I'm done with making this, and for me, drawing it helps me kind of like process that.
Okay, great. Thanks for sharing. So I think everybody has their, if you're there, you have your kits and you can start doing some painting. And then if you want to share that and unmute and kind of talk about some of the paintings that you've done. I left my ink out in the vehicle, so I may have to just kind of go on pause for just a minute and run down and get it before I can do some artwork. But I'll see if anybody has any questions they'd like to share. If not, I'm going to just put myself on mute and I'll be back in about a minute or two. Okay. There was a question that came in on the chat group. Do you make any other kind of art? I like the one from your disappeared. I like the one from your grandma when it reminded you of your childhood. I was just wondering how you came up with the idea like that.
Oh, the cattails. Well, I know I wanted to make this. I kind of had the series in my head for a while. And I knew it's funny because like I found all of the spud wrenches at a yard sale, and I found like 20 of them, and I kind of knew like I need to get these. I need to do something with them. So there's this historical aspect of Mohawk high steel workers who travel to New York City, or iron workers, built skyscrapers. So when I saw the tool, I kind of like knew, well, there's this layer of like story and narrative that's already in there that I can take, that's you know, related to my culture, that some people know about and some people don't. So I had those, and then I just had them for a really long time, and I kind of didn't quite know what to do with them. And then just decided, it's like, okay, I really want to combine them with really important with the natural world. And then just started choosing plants and items that were really important to me. So like the chives, I always remember my grandmother growing chives in her vegetable garden growing up. Like the cattails were always in the swamp. So just choosing things specifically for that. And then so that series really gave me the ability to do something really broad. And then I was able to focus in on the cattails at my visiting artist residency. And I wanted to focus in on that form because where the residency was in Minnesota, there's also a ton of cattails. So something that I was like, okay, this is something that's really important to me familiarly. It has cultural relevance, but it's also related to this building that I'm working in and working around. So I really like when things can have like a lot of different connections like that. So then just really kind of dug into that, to that imagery, into those forms. Did that answer the question?
Okay, I'm back again. I got my ink, and I actually have my niece who's going to help do some painting. She likes to do a lot of painting as well. One of the questions that I thought of, you mentioned the Mohawk steel workers and how many of them were instrumental in building a lot of different skyscrapers there in New York. I'm not sure if you have any connection to that, or if you have any stories you'd like to share.
I don't have immediate connection. I have extended family. So I have extended family who were steel workers and, went down and would work, and an aunt who pretty recently, she worked in the field. And then you have an uncle too who welded when he was younger. So nothing I would say like that's nothing like very, very specifically, more just like the broader narrative and the fact that there's this so like layered meaning in it.
There you go. Yeah, there's a documentary out there. As you're talking, I just remember the documentary. I'll look for it and I'll put it in the chat, so that way if people are interested in learning more about how the some of the Mohawk steel workers were instrumental in making some of the skyscrapers in New York. Sorry, I was about to sneeze. So yeah, with that, so now I have my ink and we can do some drawing here. You want to draw something here?
Mm-hmm.
And I have this right here. So I have my niece here. You want to come and say hi real quick? This is my niece. Can you see her? Her name is Margaret. Margaret, because Margaret, our artist there too. So she's got the paintbrush, so she'll do some painting for me over here too.
So I just saw a question come up that said, what's your favorite part about metalwork and how do you navigate creative block? So I think the easiest way to navigate creative block is just be in your studio. And I have like a couple different, I generally have like a bunch of different projects going on at the same time. So I don't do a ton of commissions, but sometimes like I'll work with friends who are doing something and want something like, I have friends who do a lot with fashion, and so they're like, I want this thing, you know, for I want this jewelry piece that's really pretty basic, but you know, I can't find it anywhere. So I'll take on like little projects like that sometimes if I think it's gonna just help me start making. Because for me, just like being in the studio making stuff, even if it's not just getting the movement and getting like that's like the body memory there is super helpful. And sometimes I'll take commissions that will, or projects on that will push me a little bit. So that's always helpful. Like right now, I have a friend who asked for a couple septum rings, and I've never done that before. And I was like, yeah, I'll do that. And then it's just a way for me to kind of start making. And once I start making, then the inspiration is there. And I start kind of like thinking about other things as well. And yeah, I generally have like I said, I have a couple different projects going on. So if I have something that I'm working on and it's just like not happening, I can put it aside and go to something else. And I generally like to have things like that I don't have to think about. So if I'm like, okay, today I just need to cut out like these 10 things. I don't really have to like think about meaning or what I'm doing or anything deeper than that. I just know that I have to cut out like 10 of these. Then that, I don't know, helps me get to the point where I can start thinking about other stuff. So I think, you know, the making, when you're making, the making of things gives you inspiration. You just have to be in the studio and you just have to like start. And there, I have different ways to kind of trick myself into doing that. Using the found object helps as well. So it's kind of like having a blank piece of white paper. It's always really hard to make the first mark. So if you have a found object that you're adding to, it's sometimes a little bit easier to dive in. And you know, sometimes that object gets cut away or welded away or doesn't even end up being a part of the final piece, but it did its part of getting you into your idea. So that's helpful for me. And yeah, I'm also not afraid to like cut things apart. And that's one of the reasons that I really love metal and working with metal. Steel is really great because, you know, if you don't like something, you can just cut it off. And if you want it back, you can just put it back on. And I don't really know if there's another material that you can do that with like that. I just find it's really versatile. You can do a lot of things with it. You can make it look hard. You can make it look soft. You can combine it with things. You can make it look like different, you know, different textures, different surfacing. You can create objects that are really tiny but have a really large presence, or you can create things that are really large and have structural integrity. So it's just a material that once I started using it, just felt like it was right to me. And I've kind of just been using it ever since.
So we have a couple of drawings here. I'm not sure if anybody's willing to share what they have here. You want to share yours? Oh. So Margaret here has drawn a, what is it? Oh, I don't know if you can see it. Let me see.
A horse.
It's a horse. Let me see if I got it.
Oh, cool. Well, I can kind of see the horse cut out.
I'm not sure if I'm doing this right. Okay, there we go. Let me see if I can.
Don't put on your computer, else it go buzz.
I know it's gonna start buzz, huh? She says, don't take it to your computer. Okay, there we go.
I remember this picture.
There you go. So she has a little horse with a little sun up there.
Oh, cool.
And grass.
And grass, yes, there's some, there's some grass there. Oh, there's some grass back there. So she has this here. Okay, great. Well, it looks like there's another message here. So I'm sorry, another question here. I'm gonna take this down here. Oops. I can't undo this now. There we go. There's another question that's in the chat box. Do you have a specific artwork that you made that reflects your experience as being a member of the, I'm really bad. Okay, can you pronounce your?
Oh, Akwesasne.
Akwesasne, okay.
I have a couple projects. So I have a couple projects in the works that are very specific to my tribe, but I haven't really, haven't fully, how to say, like, figured them out yet. So I have a couple of things that I'm working on, and then I have a couple of jewelry pieces that I actually didn't show on the slides. But I have a pendant that is, so it's a turtle pendant, and so on the back, it's a turtle pendant, but it's 3 layers. So the central figure is a turtle, and then the underneath looks like a bottom of a turtle, and then the top is like the shell of a turtle. And so then I riveted it all together so that from each angle, it looks like a turtle object. It doesn't just look like a specific front or back. And on the back, I've cut out corn, beans, and squash. So that one's more specific. And then
My God.
Very pretty.
I'm trying to go through my work now.
I need my big brush.
Question, you talked about the turtle, and would you be able to talk about the significance of the turtle? And I'm not sure if specifically in some pieces that we know that have the connection to Turtle Island.
Yeah, so that piece is really specific to Turtle Island, and just it was made specifically for an exhibition, and just thinking about you know, corn, beans, and squash, and our food, our culture on the back of Turtle Island. And then my family's turtle clan too. So turtles have a really large presence in my work. So like a lot of the drawings that I do, I have a lot of like turtle shell drawings. So that's something that I'm always just thinking about and looking at, and just kind of exploring in my work. As well as that first piece that I showed, the steel turtle shell. And that's something that kind of, when I started, I knew that I wanted to do something that was important, I'd say, like, specifically important. So, you know, as well as Turtle Island, just, you know, having a representation of Turtle Clan as well.
And yes, and you also mentioned the like corns, beans, and squash. And for some people that may not be aware, that corn, beans, and squash are often referred to as the 3 sisters. And so you see the 3 sisters reflected in many different creation stories from all different parts. I've seen it in like the Potawatomi. I know there might be some in the Mohawk, some of the Haudenosaunee legends, but it does show the importance that many tribal nations have in talking about what a significant role these 3 vegetables play with the survival for many tribes. And I think that's what I always like to see, you know, how tribes tend to, those stories about the 3 sisters tend to, you know, they all have different stories, but yet somehow they all kind of come together in terms of the main purpose was to help the people survive. And during a certain point in their tribal history where they were in desperate need of food. And that really goes back down to looking at colonization and how many tribal nations were forcibly removed and put onto to reservation. So I'll kind of stop there because we're going to probably go into it if I keep going there.
Yeah, it is interesting just to see the how things are very similar, but different, but not different.
Okay, so after we've got most of our drawings done, because you said you would also do some type of sculpture, so maybe if you would have a chance to kind of walk us through some of the sculptures that you would make out of these.
Yeah, so I don't have scissors, but I have an X-Acto. So mine's still a little wet. So like I don't know. I just started like a mark, right? But I'm gonna take my X-Acto knife. And I'll cut it out and I'll show you guys. Okay, I think I need to get scissors. I will be right back. Yeah, so I'm just cutting out a couple different shapes or forms, a couple different shapes to make forms. So I just cut out the like tobacco flower that I've been using a lot lately. And then I just cut out like a leaf, form. And then I have these really colorful ones because I was working with like second graders. You can kind of just start to like put things together. I know it's a little hard to see. And then, you know, if there's too much white on the page, you can kind of go back in and put more ink down. Or I kind of like to put like the background in so that it looks like it's a little bit of shadow. I'll see if I can get a better. So I like to also like just like load up. So I like to load up like the background. So I like to load up like the background. So I like to load up like the background. So I like to load up like the background. So I like to load up like the background. So I like to load up like the background. So I like to load up like the background. So I like to load up like the background. So I like to load up like the background. So I like to load up like the background. So I like to load up like the background. So I like to load up like the background. So I like to load up like the background. So I like to load up like the background. So I like to load up like the background. So I like to load up like the background. So I like to load up like the background. So I like to load up like the background. So I like to load up like the background. So I like to load up like the background. So I like to load up like the background. So I like to load up like the background. So I like to load up like the background. So I like to load up like the background. So I like to load up like the background. So I like to load up like the background. So I like to load up like my paper with the ink and then let it dry. I don't know. But then I have like two pieces together, but you can kind of just keep going and keep, I don't know, keep adding more.
So I have some little leaves. I'm not sure if you can see these. I've been cutting up some little
Okay,
leaves.
yeah,
I have a big monstero plant, the monster plant right here. So I was kind
I
of,
call
yeah.
it the banana plant.
you call it the banana. So this one here, let me see, you can, I wonder why you can't see this. There you go. Oh, there you go. Okay. So it's kind of like a different shapes. We're
Yeah.
putting these out right now, and she's trying to cut out her, what are you trying to cut out? Which one are you going to cut out? Your horse or your present?
It's my present.
Okay, I don't think your Christmas tree present because it's still wet, so we'll let it dry out a little bit more.
I like to, I don't know, I like to like take my pattern and then make other patterns with it too.
Mhm.
So then kind of just start like using it as,
Okay, I see.
yeah, and just keep building it up. I really like the walnut ink because it can go really light or it can go really dark.
Mhm.
Or you can, you know, start light and then you can just keep going darker and darker if you want to.
Yeah, when I first started using it, it was really light, and I thought I didn't have enough ink on there. But like you said, you just let it saturate a little bit more, and you get a darker color to it. So, do you have any upcoming shows that you're preparing for?
I'm actually kind of winding down for my season. So what do I have? Yeah, a lot of my stuff is coming back. I have a solo show next summer that I'm excited about, so I'll probably start thinking about that. I've got a lot of gallery space, so I really want to make some really large work that I haven't had the opportunity to make yet. And then I have a couple fashion things for the spring as well, but and I generally like to like stay kind of quiet in the winter too, just, you know, think about things, reflect, figure out where the work should go next, creatively. Yeah, so then I use my pattern as like a pattern. You can kind of see the tobacco leaves.
So I know that we've hosted a number of different artists that have come some have come in person to Purdue, and we've had virtual programs as well, but it's been very helpful for our student and our campus population to learn more about different tribal nations and, you know, what type of, I guess in this case, we're learning more about your nation, the Mohawk people, but it's also a good, how would I say, anti-stress activity.
Yeah.
We recognize that students are under a lot of pressure right now with classes and everything, and not to mention with this current pandemic going on, but we often try to host different activities so that way we can engage with the students. Last week, we hosted a pottery workshop, and surprisingly, we had a number of students who stayed for the full 4 hours, and they
cool.
had a chance to, like I said, just learn to get their hands muddy and learn different techniques. So with that in mind, we have what we call craft circles, and this really came about through students. I know we have a number of students that are here, but the students were the ones who really wanted to learn more about a specific topic. And I remember specifically the group of students that came, they would come to our center and visit us, and then they asked Deb, you know, can you teach us how to knit? So she started teaching, she had a little knitting circle. And after they got done knitting, they're like, okay, what's next? And then that's kind of how a lot of our programs evolve, is really through student student motivation or student endeavors. They tell us what they want to do, and we're able to help them. It's a way that they're not only able to distress from their activities, but also we always add some type of educational component. So they're learning about, in this case, we're learning more about different tribal nations and different, we talked about the Three Sisters, we've talked about the turtle, and knowing that you're coming from the turtle clan, and all those different important elements that are part of your identity, but also it helps people understand how diverse our Native populations are across the country. Okay, good. Well, I know, let's see, we have a couple of people that are getting ready to leave. We're already done with our hour, it seems like. It went by so fast, but we will have this particular presentation available on our YouTube page. So if you want to learn more, and if you want to stop by, if you didn't have a chance to stop by and pick up some items here, let's see, Margaret wants to show us what is that, baby?
It's a moon.
Oh, a moon. It's a moon. So we'll let this dry, then we'll put some sculpture behind it. Okay, good. But yeah, so I would just encourage students, if you or anybody out there, we do have plenty of black walnut ink available at the center, and so you're welcome to stop by and pick some up if you want to try another project. And that's basically it, because I want to make sure that we are respectful of your time. So thank you, Margaret, for joining us and sharing some of your stories and some of your painting techniques. And thank you to all the students and participants that are here that are joining us for our call. That's all I have for now. And I'm going to just officially sign off and say thank you again for joining us. And if you have any questions, you're welcome to email me or Deb. We're both here available. Just send a message to NAECC@purdue.edu. All right, y'all, have a good evening. Okay, Deb.